Taiwan Semi is out tomorrow, and so investors will have chance to take comfort as it of course does a lot of business with Nvidia and is a little bit more exposed to the winners. How, as an analyst, how much do you look at that ecosystem to decide what's going right in the AI trade?
Yeah, and look, that's why we've been Asia, twice in the last, call it 7 weeks. It's like you have to, they're not all winners. So you have to separate who are the winners, who are the trends, who you bet on. So even yesterday, when Nvidia is down on this news, that's a buying opportunity because it really has nothing to do with Nvidia. We're talking about Intel and everything related to that trade, which is really legacy chip. So I think that's why we spend so much time trying to figure out who are the second, third, fourth derivatives of AI. And that's why every time the bears come out of hibernation mode, scare some, I think it actually creates opportunity in a lot of these names.
In this video, Wedbush analyst Dan Ives discusses the current state of the AI and semiconductor industries, focusing on companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple. He views recent news about ASML as noise, emphasizing that the real growth lies in AI-related sectors. Ives highlights Nvidia as a key player in the AI revolution, noting that despite stock fluctuations, the AI trade is in its early stages, with Nvidia, Microsoft, and others positioned to benefit in the long term. Ives also discusses the bullish outlook for tech giants like Apple, predicting that the company is set to reach a $4 trillion market cap, driven by the AI-driven supercycle and a strong holiday season. Despite skepticism around demand, Ives remains optimistic, citing the massive upgrade opportunity for Apple products and AI integration into their offerings. Additionally, the video touches on Tesla's growth prospects, with Ives expressing excitement about the company's autonomous driving technology and potential market dominance. He believes that Tesla's advancements, especially with Optimus robots, position it to continue leading in the electric vehicle and AI spaces.
Yeah, I view it as noise, because ultimately that's the wrong side of the growth trade. Look at Intel. If you looked up disaster in the dictionary, you see Intel's ticker. So the point is, to me, it's all, as we always talk about, right? It's all about being on the AI freight train, which is tied to Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple. I think AMD on the chip side as well. Names like Palantir and others. But if you're in the right lane, going 40 miles an hour in a beat-up minivan, you're going to have issues, and that's where I see ASML.
Meantime, we do have some activity in tech. NASDAQ was down about 1% a moment ago. Shares of ASML dropping sharply on their guidance, and for that, we'll turn to Seema Modi. Hey, Seema.
Carl, this is the Dutch microchip equipment maker reporting earnings that came in better than expected, but its guide for 2025 is weaker than what Wall Street had anticipated. It expects 2025 total net sales to be between 30 to 35 billion euros. The Street was expecting around 35.8 billion, and we have comments here from their CEO. While there continues to be a strong development and upside potential in AI, other market segments, he says, are taking longer to recover. It now appears the recovery is more gradual than previously expected. ASML is a key supplier to Nvidia, Taiwan Semi. It makes a very specific microchip that many other companies cannot make. So this will be an interesting read here across the entire semiconductor sector as we watch names like Nvidia trade in record high territory. Guys?
Yeah, although not right now, Seema. Nvidia down 4%, AMD as well. Do you believe it is on this, related to this news?
It may be. Expectations have been very high, David, going into earnings season. ASML today, and then we have Taiwan Semi, which reports in about 24 hours. And given the whole story around demand, those comments from Jensen Huang about insane demand for Blackwell, again, expectations have been high.
Yeah, well, again, Nvidia and AMD both down. Of course, ASML a lot more than that. Seema, thank you, Seema Modi. Would point out as well, when we came into the session this morning, Nvidia was creeping up in market cap towards Apple's 3.5 trillion, but that disparity has actually grown given Nvidia's 4% loss. Apple shares up some 2%, perhaps on some data from IDC we got this morning as well. You can take a look at Nvidia, but Apple shares benefiting from a nice move higher.
Let's talk about the bulls and this idea that maybe they're already there. In fact, there was a Bank of America survey, they do the fund manager survey, the Mag 7 for, I think it's the 19th consecutive month. That's the most crowded trade. And you can say that maybe that's contrarian, but another consequence of that is, are there dip buyers? Because everybody is already all in.
Look, you have $7 trillion on the sidelines. And I mean, I could tell you every day, the skepticism I see globally from investors, valuation, is the trade done, is AI hype? It's still there. So I'm not saying it's not a crowded trade, but I believe, like I said, 6 months from now, $3-4 trillion market caps will be the narrative. Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft. And I think that's all driven by, we're only in the second inning of the game from a hockey perspective, early first period. In terms of where I see this AI trade going, which I think tech bull market roars well into 2025, potentially 2026.
Well, I appreciate you translating it for the Canadian audience so we can understand. Let's talk Apple, because you say that's going to be in the race to $4 trillion. And you know there's been lots of skepticism on the sell side about what's demand like. It seems sluggish. Are you worried, or do you think that's kind of missing the forest for the trees?
But these are many of the analysts that hated this company at $1 trillion. 2 trillion just despised it. 3 trillion were just screaming. And now 3.5 trillion doing the same thing. I mean, the point is, I just focus on 300 million iPhones are in a window of an upgrade opportunity. All of our checks show this is the beginning of an AI-driven super cycle. A lot of the Apple Intelligence features won't get rolled out till next month or two. I think they're just going to have a monster holiday season. And China's going to show growth instead of a decline. But that's why Apple as a stock continues to move higher, despite every day having some other sort of negative fire in a crowded theater type call.
Let's talk about it as it relates to Microsoft, which is still off more than 10% from its all-time high in the summer. And you had an analyst warning that the street is not fully taking into account losses from OpenAI and how significant that's going to be, how much of a drain it's going to be, and that maybe they're optimistic on the revenue side of things. What do you say to that?
I mean, I'd say right now for Microsoft, consumption demand skyrocketing. OpenAI losses, that means nothing now. I mean, look at OpenAI's valuation, Nvidia, everyone else piling in. I mean, we're talking about something that's gone up basically 8-9x in the last, call it 24 months. This is about an AI arms race. It's a fourth industrial revolution. It's the biggest tech trend we've seen in 40 years. And Microsoft's essentially leading it. So to bet against Microsoft for OpenAI losses, and I just don't, it's hard for me to see that narrative. But again, it's always great to have the skeptics, because this is a market, right? You're gonna have bulls and bears.
Absolutely, it's what makes a market. I'd love to get your thoughts on Tesla. You were at the event. I think you were at the event. We Robot. Were you blown away?
I mean, I think it's going to be one of the most historical events, not just for Tesla, but anything in broader tech. Knee-jerk reaction, negative because of lack of details. I think in terms of cybercab, I mean, this is something that's going to be just a whole nother, what I view as the next phase of autonomous. A Tesla that I think they will continue to really own versus Waymo. And when I look at Optimus, I mean, I believe a few years from now, Optimus is going to become a reality for many consumers. So this just goes back to, this is a glimpse of the future of Tesla. I get there in between two growth waves, but I believe autonomous alone is worth $1 trillion to Tesla's market cap. And I came away blown away.
Just in the last 30 seconds, but you mentioned Tesla has the edge on Waymo. Why? Waymo's already on the road in a couple of cities.
Yeah, because Tesla has 6 million vehicles, 1.5 billion miles driven, and Waymos are $200,000 cars that can scale. I love Waymos. I've been in many of them, but when it comes to autonomous, it's going to be Musk and Tesla that I think own that market.
Dan, always great to get your perspective. That's Dan Ives joining me from Wedbush.
In conclusion, Dan Ives emphasizes the long-term potential of AI-related companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, and Apple, despite short-term fluctuations and market skepticism. He believes we are still in the early stages of an AI-driven growth cycle, with these tech giants poised to lead the way. Ives also highlights the importance of differentiating between winners and legacy players in the semiconductor industry, stressing that companies aligned with AI will thrive. Furthermore, Ives remains optimistic about Apple's future, predicting a strong holiday season and a significant upgrade cycle driven by AI integration. He also expresses confidence in Tesla's advancements, particularly in autonomous technology, which he believes will solidify Tesla's dominance in the market. Overall, Ives maintains that the tech bull market is far from over, with plenty of growth ahead. Do you share Dan Ives' confidence in AI-related companies like Nvidia and Apple? How do you think Tesla's focus on autonomous technology will impact its future growth?